involved with this conference since it began, which is something like 20 years ago now, actually, I think from memory. We started it in Melbourne in Australia. And I also want to welcome here Eugenia Avanitis, who's our research network. What's the word we use for coordinator, host?
Research network chair.
Chair. I couldn't think of the word. There you go. Who's at the University of Patra. And I also want to welcome Joseph Recupero, who is going to be the host of the conference next year when we're in Toronto in Canada. So we're in a kind of a strange place at the moment, which is we're just coming out of COVID and people are still a little bit reluctant to travel. Tamsin informs me that we have 77 in-person delegates who are at our, this year the conference is based in Curacao. We were hoping it was supposed to be here in 2020 actually, and the Curacao folks came to Patra, so Eugenia met them there, but 2020 wasn't to be and 2021 wasn't to be, and we're desperately trying to get back to being in person as well. But one of the legacies of COVID is we've built this blended format where in fact, although we have 70 in-person delegates, we have 40 people who are online only. And those 40 people may be listening to a recording of this session. What we find is that people value the asynchronous sessions as well. And in fact, there are a total of, and Tamsin just gave me these numbers now, these up-to-date numbers. We have 83 pieces of digital media in the asynchronous presentations in English and 35 in Spanish. So there's a lot of material there for people to work through, whether you're in person at the conference or whether you're just an online person. And one little thing I'm going to say several times during this session actually is go and look at as many sessions as you can. And for goodness sake, don't leave a session without leaving a comment. You know, the fact that people appreciate the fact that other people have looked at their work and feedback and comments on that work would be greatly appreciated by everybody. So what I'm going to do in this session is speak just for a couple of moments about the conference, the history of the conference. Then I'd like to hand over to Eugenia, who can talk a little bit about the work that she does in relation to this conference and this research network. I'll also get Joseph to speak as well. And then with the other folks in the room, also what I need to do is welcome also Carly Ryan, who also works with us on the Common Ground team. You might have spoken with her as well in various emails. And then I'll get the others in the group here to just introduce themselves briefly. So anyhow, this conference we began, I think it was 2000, so it must be 22 years ago. These issues of diversity, and at that time I was in Melbourne. We were connected with RMIT University in Melbourne. And these issues of diversity seem to be fraught, difficult, problematic, and interesting all the time. And that was a moment when we thought they needed to be addressed. And the idea of the conference is to address them at a number of different levels. At the level of organizations, so it might be, we're thinking schools or businesses, how do we negotiate diversity in the context of a smaller group? Communities, how does one deal with diversity in ethnic communities, in local government communities, on a slightly larger scale? And then nations, this whole question of identity as well. So, and also we want to deal with diversity in a kind of intersectoral way around issues of ethnicity, issues of race, issues of gender, and all those dimensions of diversity which are so critical. So that's kind of what the overall themes are, the ideas are. The format of the research network is we hold these conferences, and we've held them every year since 2000. Unfortunately with COVID, we've had to have them purely online for the last 2 years, but we're getting back to this in-person format now. But one of the legacies of COVID is that we're also encouraging people to participate online. But even the people who are participating in person, we're asking them if at all possible to put in digital media for the people who are not able to attend in person. Curacao is a bit of a out of the way place in the world, and not that easy to get to. So we're hoping to make the conference accessible, even though it's there this year. So that's my little introduction to the conference and what we're doing. And Eugenia, I was going to get you to welcome people and to talk a little bit about your role and the work that you do.
All right, thank you very much, Bill. In fact, your talk inspired me to, gave me the opportunity to reflect back 22 years ago and recall where I was in 2002 when we had the first, when you had at that time, the first diversity conference. I used to be at that point at the university, RMIT University, and in the building Story Hall, I think it was called. It was held, the first conference. So I was a PhD student at that time in Melbourne, completing my thesis. And diversity conference was the very first conference that I had the opportunity to go through a number of different discussions and to form different networks with people who were interested in diversity. That was a kick-off sort of moment for me and for my involvement with this research network. And that was 22 years ago, as you said. I think the very important issue for this conference is that it keeps the momentum for a number of years now, and it keeps people together, and it brings all kind of different scholars and professionals and practitioners and students together in a thinking and learning together act, which is very important for us because we need to build strong synergies in our world in discussing the different dimensions of diversity, as you said, as you mentioned before. So it's very important to keep up the good work that we do within the network and to allow people to have a very welcoming sort of space, public space, to discuss their works and reflect on the things that they do in the practical level. So I think it's very important to keep that in mind. Plus, I had the opportunity to meet some of the returning members that keep on going, coming into this conference for many years and for many conferences, despite the difficulties. Even COVID, put a lot of restraint in our efforts. But people keep coming and try to voice their work, reflect on the things that they do, as I said, and try to keep connected with the other colleagues, which is very important. So one of these returning members came to the University of Patras after making a very important sort of a connection to the place in the 2019 conference that we had at the University of Patras in Greece. So people, and when I asked this person, what was the very important stuff that, the very important point that she made her to return to the University of Patras, she told me that it was the diversity conference and the welcoming sort of atmosphere that we had experienced at that time, and the space that we allow her to have in terms of transforming her academic research and collegial experience and learning together with the rest of her colleagues. So I think it's very important for us to keep that connection alive and to maintain this kind of rapport with all our delegates. And the delegates in this conference are the vital sort of people that bring all this energy together. Now, I think for the last 3-4 years now, I've been given the opportunity to become the chair of the research network and become involved with the publication activities, the journal, and so forth, which is another important dimension of this research network. Despite this, except the synergies and all the collegial report, publications are really important because it allows to expose ourselves and make this dialogue more stronger in terms of allowing different ideas and testing all these different theories into practice. So I think it's another important aspect of the research network. And one final thing that I'd like to make is that the connection with this network has supported my own work as well, giving me the willingness and the motive to go ahead and research different aspects of diversity together with other colleagues, members of this network. For example, I could mention the work that we did in the refugee sort of education and in the diversity, the diversified the teaching planning, for example. There are two main categories and points that became vital in my work as well. So that came, these sort of boost in terms of finding new and different and novel ways to reflect on a human experience and diversity. I think it all came from this network. So with these words, I'd like to welcome you all the delegates into the 22nd Diversity Conference. And I would like to wish each and every one of you to have a very fruitful discussions with your colleagues. And of course, to say a big thanks to the Common Ground people that support all this initiative, and to Bill Cobb and Mary Calantis that were the instigators of all these networks and this great initiative some 22 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eugenia. And one thing I didn't mention before, which I should mention. So one aspect of the network is the conferences, but the conferences often, the presentations we learn at the conference often lead to people putting in articles in our peer-reviewed journals. I'm just going to put a link in the chat. This is an amazing resource we've built up over these years. 1,672 publications, which includes 30 books. And one of the benefits people have is access to this amazing resource. There's actually an advanced search there, so you can dig down into quite detailed topics if you want to. But one thing I would like to appeal to people to do is not only to put in the papers and participate in peer reviews. So this is a collaborative community where we share the intellectual work by reviewing and giving constructive feedback to each other in terms of the publication process, but also to cite this work. I mean, the most powerful form of acknowledgement in the academic area is citation, that somebody's found your ideas to be significant enough to be worth a citation in the work that they do. So everyone has access to all this material. Your membership of the research network gives you access to all this material, including the books in ebook format. So yeah, do use that resource. It's a really wonderful resource, and thank you for being part of the process of contributing that resource as we go forward. I would also like to hand over to you, Joseph, for you to talk a little bit. You know, I know this is the beginning of this conference, but you might like to talk a little bit about your vision for next year's conference in Toronto.
Hey, hi there. Thank you. Thanks for this invitation. And I was actually hoping to be at the conference in person this year, but I was one of those very unlucky statistics with COVID in April and had it quite bad. And it took about 5 weeks to really recover fully from it. And I'm just sort of catching up now, and also not looking to do any international travel just yet. But we look ahead to next year, and we really hope that it's a huge in-person delegation of people, because Toronto is a very vibrant city, very diverse city as well. It's a perfect place to hold this conference, and our university as well is a perfect place to hold it. For those that may not know, we held one conference through Common Ground 3 years ago, before the pandemic, in 2019, the Sport and Society Conference, and it was quite successful. And we had a book come out of that from the different papers and presentations that happened there. Myself and my colleague Laurel, who can't be here today, Professor Laura Walzak, we are faculty members in the RTA Sport Media program, in the RTA School of Media, in the Creative School, at what is now the Toronto Metropolitan University, formerly Ryerson. So if I say Ryerson at any point, it's just a little slip because we're still going through the transition of formally changing the name, the brand, our emails, everything. But our university is going through institutional change. And it's because of things like more accountability in terms of diversity, inclusion, and equity. And I think our program is also one of a kind in our country, at least, where we're the first sport media program dealing with sports broadcasting directly, and we're a university program. So students are getting, tremendous critical thinking skills courses where they're taking sport media theory and business classes mixed with hands-on production, sports broadcasting, documentary production, on-air presentation, sports graphics, things like that. But we've made it, our faculty, and our full-time faculty is fairly small, and then we have a larger part-time faculty that we draw from the industry. And we've made it a very concerted effort since the beginning of this program to infuse those pillars of equity, diversity, inclusion into the program. There's no big mystery that this actually, where we are anyways, the sport media industry is going through a bit of a reckoning in itself in terms of accountability. What this next conference next year, we're sort of focusing around the accountability revolution. We did that specifically to sports in our own, we did our own little conference last year, 2021, totally online, and we call it the accountability revolution. And Professor Laura Walczak really spearheaded that one. And we drew on scholars and people from industry and everything to talk about the changes that were going on, that so many of us are seeing, especially in the last few years, especially that have been exacerbated through the pandemic. So from that, we decided to, approach Common Ground again to now host the Diversity in Organizations, Communities, and Nations Conference, which will happen here next year. And around this idea of accountability revolution, we are sport media people. And so myself, Laurel, our faculty, and people that we know that will be involved, will be putting pretty much a sport focus on it. But sport is just a microcosm of the bigger issues around accountability that you might find in almost any industry. So we really think that we're going to have some interesting conversations, presentations, papers, and a lot of interesting things going on in the city at the same time. The Pride Week is that week in Toronto. So for any people that might be coming, they can sort of make that a two-pronged thing and stay on the weekend for the Pride festivities. In Toronto, we're one of the biggest cities in the world to hold that. And our campus is just a few blocks south of where the Pride celebrations go on Church Street. We also have some other ideas of other things that we're going to be bringing into the conference as well around these ideas of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we hope to see you there next year.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for that very warm welcome. Sounds exciting indeed. Now, also, I noticed we have here one of our plenary speakers. So let's go, we're jumping around the world, Patra, Toronto, and now we're going to go to Curacao. So I don't know whether I can pronounce your name correctly. It's Guy Cogins. Maybe you better pronounce it for me correctly. My apologies for that. And this is the session which is going to be live tomorrow. And but you might like to talk a little bit about the conference and the location of the conference and this session. And also, so I've put a link to the information about the session. But on this page here, after the session, we'll be posting a recording for the people who are unable to attend in person. So over to you. Would you like to welcome and thank you very much for being our host. You might need to unmute.
Oh, we can't hear you, Guy.
Okay, now you can all hear me? Yes?
I can hear you now.
So, good afternoon or good evening or good morning, wherever you are. And well, thank you for having me in this session. My name is Guy Cogins, Guy, French name. Originally, I'm from Belgium, but I live in Curaçao. Yeah. So, and well, when I saw the invitation, I saw online think and drink welcome reception. However, I didn't see anyone drinking anything. So It's kind of weird, but so we can start with. Well, my participation in the conference will be. Last year, actually, I already participated in the conference in a session that was covering well, the pandemic and how to recover from it, both on the economic and well, social and environmental side. And this year I'm going to be again in a session tomorrow, actually, 30:30. I don't know where it is, but it's what would I say?
It's in the morning at 9:30.
Yeah, it's 9:30 in the morning, and I will be in the session that covers the first theme. Yeah, I'm going to talk about. I'm an economist, so but maybe I'm going to come up with, let's say, maybe a surprising title. I'm only going to say the title, and furthermore, I'm not going to give any details. That's for tomorrow then. But I'm going to talk about. The title is "Imagination and Power from a Child's Perspective." So that's going to be the the title of my of my presentation. And furthermore, I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward also to meeting people to meet people in person. I don't know how many people there are physically here on the island from the organization. I don't have any idea, but well, I'm just going to go with the flow and see and what happens these coming days. So thank you all.
Wonderful. I don't think we're entirely certain either, to be quite frank. There were 77 who were intending to come, who registered, but I think Tamsin thinks it might be 30 or 40 or something. So, but anyhow, it is what it is. And in the 21st century, it's the 100 and I'm just trying to remember the number here, 120 or so presentations that we've got. So even if people are not there, let's hope everybody interacts online, whether they're in person or not there. Now, I just might offer the other people in the room if they'd like to introduce themselves. And also, I don't know whether you may or may not be giving a presentation. If you are, we'll put a link in the chat. But Lata or Amber, would you like to introduce yourselves briefly?
Hi, I'm Amber. This is my first time in Curaçao. I'm actually going to be attending the conference physically. I am an emerging scholar, which means that I will be chairing the conference on the 2nd and on the 4th of June. So I'll be in charge of kind of guiding discussions and asking questions and time management and all that. I'll also be reading my paper tomorrow. My research is basically a practice-led PhD, practice-based rather than practice-led, which means that I write my own stories and I do kind of a linguistic and historical analysis of them. And my subject is minority cultures, and more specifically the Maltese minority culture and language. And I will be talking about how I've managed to include the Maltese language in my English language fiction, in my English fiction short, in my short stories which are written in English. So that's what my paper is going to be about. And I'm really looking forward to seeing a lot of people in person as well.
And
Thank you.
I've put your the link to your presentation in the chat there. So if anybody wants to look it up, I don't know whether you've made a digital version of it yet, but it'd be
I've had it updated recently. Yeah, there's a PowerPoint there. So yeah,
wonderful. So everybody, that's Amber's work. And the other person I can see there is Lata Murti. How are you?
Good, thank you. How's everyone else doing today? Well, we're all here,
good,
so that's good. I'm here fully online from California, from the U.S. Pacific Coast, in Santa Barbara County. I'm an associate professor of sociology at what is now called University of Massachusetts Global. but was formerly Brandon University with the Chapman University system. And we are almost entirely virtual University of Massachusetts Global. So this online format is comfortable to me, but I did attend the conference in Greece in Pathos in 2019 and had a wonderful time. And what I really appreciated about this conference as someone in academia is that it was not a purely academic conference, and that it brought in not only practitioners, but so much of the local, and that we got to visit local places and hear from local residents and really experience the city in which the conference was held, which was new to me. And I still keep in touch with the connections I made there. So I registered for the following conference in 2020 as soon as I was able to, and then of course COVID came. But I had already registered, so my registration was carrying over, and I thought, well, let me check this out fully online this year. And then the hope is to present in Toronto next year with a colleague. So I'm glad to be here, but I'm sorry I can't be there in person this year.
No, welcome. It's great to
Thank you.
great to have you. And you know, I should also say that I want to welcome all the people who are not here in the Zoom tiles this afternoon. We will be putting a recording of this session up later. The drink and think idea was we used to always have a welcome reception. So this is our version of a welcome reception, but it's lunchtime here, so my drink is coffee. So yeah. So look,
But we
Does
don't
anybody-
judge if anyone wants to have something. Eugenia, it's a suitable hour for a drink there.
Yes, but I'm not prepared to have a glass of wine or something.
But look, does anybody have any questions or comments, or as we kick off the conference now? I'm really sorry I can't be there, Tamsin. Half your luck to be there.
Yeah.
Another time. Another time. So does anybody have any questions or comments? And it's great to see people coming back, by the way. I've been to the conference before. It's nice to see that we built this kind of community that endures from year to year.
We do have someone who's just connecting now, it seems. But Eugenia, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a question to our host, this year's conference host, just to ask him, Guy, what's your perception of the local in terms of diversity? Because the special focus is rethinking the local this year. So I just wanted to probably alert us on some important points on this topic.
Wait, you can hear me? Yeah. Well, let's say it's a big question, to answer it just like that. Look, I think with everything that is going on in the world, and of course the platform of the internet that gives access to all kinds of information wherever you live, people are aware of things that are happening. There are, well, if you listen, if you hear the news these days, there's a lot of weight in it, in the sense of danger for this, crisis for that, and financial, economic challenges, which are also very much present here on the island. Because Curaçao has a special relationship in terms of it is a part, as it is an autonomous country that is part of the Royal Dutch Kingdom. Yes, that means literally that it is responsible for any domain in policy making, with exception of foreign affairs and defense. Yes, but of course COVID hit the island severely, And well, there's poverty on the island, absolutely. The inequality is present, like in many other countries. It's not only the countries where we think that it should not occur, because, for example, see, when you look at this, the situation in Europe, there's also a lot of many challenges when it comes to inequality and things like that. So I think when it comes to diversity, the population here in Curacao is, of course, as an island, you have a lot of influx from people coming from abroad. And so you're used to living and dealing and making deals and communicating with other cultures. Yeah. So people also here on the island, they're used to speaking different languages. So the official language here is, we have three official languages. We have Papiamento, which is the local language, and that's a mixture of Spanish, Portuguese, some English, and Dutch words. It's really a mixture. Then you have Dutch, because you are part of the Royal Dutch Kingdom, and legislation is made mainly in the Dutch language. And then you also have, of course, English, which is, well, yeah, the world language, of course. So from the point of diversity, there are tensions, but there's also many good things happening on the island. We must not forget that. I think the focus is, well, how, an interesting angle is how to include and see how you can, let's say, trigger communities, small communities, to be able to work together and see and how the local context can really contribute to a local development, not being dependent only on big international organizations, because, well, they did not take a car here on the island. They didn't do their groceries on the island. They don't really know what is living among various like they call it, barrios, and regions on the island. So I think, well, essentially, to empower the population, we must really believe that there is a big and an interesting opportunity to empower them bottom up. That's, in short, kind of a reflection. And I can maybe come up with many more things as discussions are going on, but it's, of course, something that is very lively, the subject that is, taking the space in many heads of people, how to approach things, how to approach the communication, how to talk to somebody, how to include somebody, and how to also to see how you deal with situations where, for example, people are criticized, because critics and feedback not necessarily need to be negative. They can also have very positive impacts, like the way science is being driven. It's actually organized skepticism, and you keep on seeing and looking for, well, developments and improvements and so on. So that's my answer. I don't know if that satisfies you at all, but it's an angle just I came up with.
Okay, no, lovely. That gives us a nice, for those of us who are there and not there, gives us a nice introduction to what some of the main local issues are and how they connect with the global. So thanks for the question, Eugenia, and thanks for the response, Guy. I'm just noticed we've got a couple of new people that have joined, Steve and Lindy. So what I might do to kind of wrap up the session now is to say, repeat a few things I've said before. So said earlier in the session, and that is that we have something like 120 sessions here. We hope that many or a large number of the in-person sessions also have recordings with them. So, and one of the things we really want people to do is, as much as possible, to go to as many of the online sessions as possible, and always leave a comment. And likewise with the in-person sessions, even people who are in person can leave comments on the page. So we're hoping to build a properly blended conference where everybody can participate, whether they're able to travel all the way to Curacao or not. So that's the main points. Also to mention the journal, which is that there's an incredible resource there of some thousands of articles that have been produced over the years and 30 books, which people can access as part of their membership. So they're the main things. Steve and Lindy, I don't know whether you want to say hi quickly, introduce yourselves.
Sure. Yeah, sorry to join you late. I was doing a program at a local high school, so I had to do that, take care of that. It's one of the reasons why I'm not there in person. I wish I was. I'm zooming in from Ohio, Southwest Ohio in the US. And I work with Ohio State University Extension as a 4-H youth development educator, both in the county that I'm in and state and around the country. So I'm glad to be with you, and I hate that I missed the discussion, but I sure wish I could be there in person, but we'll join as much as I can virtually.
Okay, well, welcome. It's great to have you. I'm not that far away. I'm in Illinois, so
okay, great.
We're relatively close at the moment.
Yeah.
So yes, so welcome. And Lindy, would you like to introduce yourself quickly, Lindy? Maybe Lindy can't speak where she's. Oh, there's Lindy. Lindy's phone. Lindy's phone. That's. It's not Lindy. It's Lindy's phone. Okay. Hello, Lindy's phone.
Not really okay. All right. Okay.
Oh, I think we're having some connection troubles.
Oh, well, look, what I'm going to do, folks, is I just found Steve's session. This is Steve's session. I can see already 99 engagements. So there you go. There's people interested in that work already. And as I say, the rule is go to the sessions and always leave a comment. So yeah. All right, well, look, anything else, folks? Any other final words, final comments, anything else people would like to say? So I'm just going to say, wish you all a great conference, whether you're there in person or whether you're participating remotely. The live sessions, the plenary sessions, will be recorded, and soon after they're completed, they'll go up. So even if you're not there in person, please go to those sessions as well. And as I say, the rule is don't leave without leaving a comment. So, okay. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and have a wonderful conference.
Thanks
a lot to everybody.
Cheers
And success.
with my bottle of water.
Bye-bye.
Bye from Greece.